Skyscraper is the latest action film with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, where he once again works with Rawson Marshall Thurber? I don't know, I'm really bad with recounting how to pronounce a name, especially that first name, Rawson or something. But anyway, he's the guy who directed The Rock in Central Intelligence, and this is the director's first first film that's not a comedy. I was gonna say non-comedy, but I don't know why, it just didn't flow in my head. And I was honestly expecting a bit of laughs out of this movie from the guy who directed Dodgeball, but I will say, if there were any funny parts of the movie, they just didn't land. But anyway, going into the plot, Johnson plays a former FBI agent named Will Sawyer, who now owns a small security company, and an old work friend of his gets him a gig where he analyzes the world's largest skyscraper to make sure that it's, you know, secure and up to code. And because of this, he and his family are given an apartment located on one of the middle floors of the structure. While there, a group of terrorists decide to take over the building and set the building on fire while keeping the anti-fire systems that are state-of-the-art from coming on. And with Sawyer's family trapped inside, we see him trying to rescue his family as the building is becoming more and more unstable. And that way my mood is more consistent throughout. But anyway, so let's go into the cons. When this movie and its synopsis was announced, many people compared it to the action movie classic Die Hard, which you guys know that I love Die Hard, and it seems that the filmmakers liked this comparison even to the point where they made mock-up posters of Skyscraper that were similar to Die Hard posters, and I'm pretty sure they also did it for Towering Inferno, but I'll mention that later. And this honestly comes across as them hoping that if the film comes across as a love letter to Die Hard or Towering Inferno or pretty much any action movie ever, that no one will care that much about the fact that they have basically made a derivative film that kind of ripped off a few parts of different movies, and that it's too similar to Die Hard as well as Towering Inferno. And casual movie-going audiences will probably be able to overlook all this and just turn their brains off and enjoy a fun action film that's a love letter to love letter, I can't speak, that's, you know, a fun action film that's a love letter to the movies that I mentioned. There, I did not mess that up. Sadly, I'm not able to shut my brain off half the time. I'm never able to shut my brain off, unless it's a Star Wars film, but luckily Solo broke me of that. And to piggyback off of the last con, every scene in this film feels like it was copied from another action film, a better one at that, and then pasted onto the film with minor changes. I mean, there's even one scene or two that were it was blatantly obvious that they were ripped off from Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. And this film is just a mess and completely unoriginal, but luckily it doesn't go as far as I thought it would. It went far, but they held back on one thing. There's actually a line said in the film that seemed to suggest that something in the climax was going to be similar to Die Hard, and very, very minor spoiler, it involves duct tape. And if you've seen Die Hard, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But luckily they don't go down that route, and I was honestly grateful for it. But without focusing more on the unoriginality aspect, let's see where this film still continues to fall flat. I'm going to do something just a little bit different in this review than I usually do, and it's actually to try something else. So I'm going to start with my con list first, because I have way more cons than pros in this, and I am going to try it out for a little while because it is kind of depressing when I review a movie and I start off with the pros, and then I only get through like 2, and then I go to the end and there's like 10 cons, and it's just, I don't know, it just bums me out. So what I'm gonna do is start off with the cons and then go to the pros, and I'll try that out for the next few reviews that I do where, you know, I don't like the movie very much. And, you know, if I like it better, then I'll continue to do that. If not, then I'll just switch back to the original way, easy peasy, no big deal. The CGI in this film was so heavy and glossy that just nothing feels real. It had a sort of prequels feel to it, where a character would look at something, say wow, and it wouldn't even be believable, and that's something that even The Rock can't do. The action and violence in this movie was so was so basic and bloodless. It really felt like nothing was happening. And I was just looking at this movie thinking, you know what, this would actually be a little bit more entertaining if it was rated R, but because it's PG-13, it's not very interesting. And I know, there are actually quite a few PG-13 movies that have memorable fight scenes that are actually good, but the reason why they're able to do that without it being too bloody to the point where it kind of constitutes a rated R rating, I don't know why I said it like that. It's because you get enough of the characters. You get a reason to care about what's going on, either just for the characters specifically or, you know, the overall narrative. But you don't get that in this movie. There's nothing to really care about. So then, because of that, the action and the fighting sequences are just boring. The villains are very bleh, too. I mean, there's a lot of them, and some of them bounce between they're good, they're bad, this guy's okay now, maybe this guy's not okay, and it's just really jarring, and there's not a single terrifying presence in this film. And when there's nothing to fear, I mean, why care at all? I mean, like, look at the original Die Hard. The reason why you can actually see Hans Gruber as a terrifying presence is because of how he operates, and honestly how smart he is. I mean, he was able to cripple or almost fully cripple John McClane because he told his guys to shoot the glass because he realized that John had no shoes on. And if he's not wearing shoes and he's running through glass, then there's less that he can do. And we don't get anybody like that in this movie. Actually, we don't really get many villains like that anymore. And for my one pro, Dwayne Johnson is definitely a highlight of the film as usual, but I've seen him do better in many other films. I just don't understand why the biggest movie star on the planet would work on a film this simple, and not to mention the fact that he's producing the film. This movie was a letdown. It's just another action film that was watered down and is forgettable. We'll forget about it in a couple of months, just like we did Rampage. Nobody's even talking about that movie anymore, and it came out not even, what, 2-3 months ago? And it just made me want to... Or sorry, not Rampage. Skyscraper just made me want to go back and watch those action movies that it was inspired by and just, you know, enjoy the millions of other action films that are probably the same or the exact same, similar, or exact, whichever one you prefer, to Skyscraper, but are executed much better. I do not recommend this movie for anybody. It's not even a fun time in the movie theater. Just don't waste your money going to it. Plus, less people going out to see it, it could let the studios know that we will not settle for mediocrity anymore. But anyway, I'm not the person who's going to change thousands of people's minds. Hell, I'll probably at the most change like 40 or 50 people's minds, but you know, it's whatever. It's just me venting. But anyway, that is where I will end this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and just watched me rant like an idiot, you enjoyed watching me rant like an idiot and stutter because I don't know how to speak, please don't hesitate to hit that like button, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so that you can keep up to date with everything that's going on in the channel. Thank you so much for watching once again, and farewell until the next video.